totally unprepared and just going for it.
Awesome. Okay, well, it's me and you, so me, you, and the camera. So go for it, and I'm enjoying whatever experience it is.
Well, welcome to the program. Let's just dive right into this. This is Cascais Meditation and Spiritual Musings. Also the pre-show to the Inlight Connect podcast. Big announcement. I got a bunch of test versions of my new book in today called Healing the Wound of Inadequacy, a human journey of reconnecting with what has always been true. If you swing by my house today in Cascais, you can pick one up for free. But super excited to just hang out with you guys for a moment. And the scheduled topic is the dream of being human. And this is going to tie in with a subtopic of healing the wound of inadequacy. The format today will be a very short guided meditation, a brief moment of silence, and then I will ramble some insight and wisdom as it pertains to the topics, and then maybe answer some questions if you post them online. And as always, the invitation of meditation is not a goal. It's not an opportunity to acquire something. Really, the invitation is a permission slip that allows you to be fully present. It's a very sweet inner permission that says, okay, for these moments, I'm going to allow myself to just be. And that's such an amazing invitation from your heart extended to your being that says, you know what, it's okay. You don't have to think and think and think and figure something out. We don't have to use this time to strategize for the future. We are going to take these few moments and do absolutely nothing and just allow ourselves to connect with right now. Let's begin. To ground in with the presence of this moment, let us extend an allowing for all that is to be all that is. We quickly take inventory of all the noises, all the sensations, everything that is felt, the movement of thought. We take inventory of all that seems to be rising and falling, and we extend a permission for all to be exactly as it is. As such a permission has been extended, we also see that this is a great letting go, a gentle laying down any movement to control. In the surrendering of all of these things, we come home and recognize our breath. It's a recognition that just notices there is a breath. Beyond any of your personal effort, this breath moves. We acknowledge that it is not something that you do, but it is something that is done through what you are. It is given through your being. As we observe the breath, we notice it is yet another manifestation of something rising and falling. The inhale and the exhale. This too we can surrender, recognizing that it is not our doing that does it. It is not ours to control. And so we let go. We let go into a stillness, into a presence that gives birth to all of these forms. We surrender into a silence before all the noise. Recognize that in this space, regardless of any commotion, there's something within you that knows all is well. It's like even though the mind might wander, you notice the mind is wandering, and in that noticing, you know all is well. It's like recognizing what it wanders about isn't actually here, and so you can let it go. All is well. You see, it's this light of awareness, this connection with presence, that is the source of wellness. Notice that within you is this capacity of awareness. This capacity to look, to observe, to question. You can almost see this awareness as like an awakeness. It is that which comes before everything. See what happens here. There is the awakeness, and then from the awakeness, there is a dream projected. In the same way that from the silence, sound takes form. From the stillness in your being, a world is dreamt into a reality not really there. Meditation and all spiritual activity, in its original intent, is the invitation to come home to this awakeness, this space before all things. To see what is actually real and to gently let go of what is not. This is to connect with your inner light. A light that is so bright, it has no distinct color, no distinct form. It is a light that allows for all color. A light so bright, it resembles a blank canvas. A white screen. And you can see this bright light as a wellness that washes over all color. It's a blank canvas that allows for any painting. All colors allowed. You see, because the painting is more of a projection onto the canvas. See this, it's not a permanent display that interrupts the white canvas. It's a projection in such a way that the white canvas remains untouched by the projection. In the way that as you rest in this stillness, you can imagine 10,000 things, and yet those 10,000 things can disappear just as quickly as they arose. And whatever you dream upon this canvas doesn't touch the canvas. For you can always return to this stillness. You can always come home to a presence within yourself that is untouched by the dream. This is the great space of rest. where you remember what is true. To let the dream be the dream and come home and connect to the source of it all. A source untouched by the dream. I still gotta get a bell. Ding! End of meditation. Oh, actually, you know what? It's for the sake of play. Oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. Let's touch upon the nature of the dream as it's referred to in a spiritual context. And in this illustration, it attempts to bring clarity between these different states of our humanness, one of which where we are completely blinded by thought, believing things that are impossible, focusing on something not really there. In a very similar way, we've all had these moments where you're sitting quite peacefully, nothing's happening, and then without even knowing it, your mind gets captured by some thought pattern. Maybe last week's argument with your mother, a confrontation from 5 years ago. And in this, you don't even know where you are. And I draw our attention to this because it's important to recognize the capacity of your mind to be lost in its content and to mistake its content as real. In such a way that you could be sitting in this moment and you're captured by a thought pattern and something believes in that thought pattern as if it's actually happening, as if it's real. So real, in fact, that you experience internal disturbances. So real that you experience tension in the body. And yet, upon closer examination, that's not even happening. Upon closer examination, to question what's actually real, what's actually true, you're pointed to come back to this moment and to connect with what's here. And in this space of meditation, we recognize that in presence of now, there is a vast landscape of emptiness. Almost like a great internal quiet place where not much is happening at all. The more you get intimate with the present moment, the more you recognize there's nothing to fear. And haven't you noticed this quality about your moments of peace, of joy, where you're rested in the present moment and there's a recognition that all is incredibly well. Nothing to fear. That in this moment right now, you have absolutely everything you need. Nothing is missing. Now notice the dream state of being human that's problematic, where our attention is captured by the mind's movement. And this internal disturbance, when it arises, do you notice how your mind is captured by ideas that says, tomorrow there won't be enough. Tomorrow there's something to fear. Something's missing that prevents me from getting to where I'm supposed to be. And whether it's projected forward in tomorrow or projected backward into yesterday, do you see, regardless if it's forward or backward, it's projected away from right now? In this, you see that it actually matters not whether it's a forward projection or a backward projection. It's not actually here. You can see an illustration of this when you go to sleep at night. How many times have you had a dream where you were convinced that it was real? And you wake up and what do you realize? Oh my goodness, that wasn't real. Whoa, that seemed so real. But it was a dream. And notice in these moments of how convinced you were in the dream that it wasn't a dream. Almost to the point where you might have had a dream where in this dream you were arguing about something that you thought was real. And in this dream you kept arguing and arguing and arguing. Only to wake up and realize, oh my goodness, that wasn't even real. This dream state while you are asleep is a reflection of the dream state of while what you are is awake in the spiritual context. Because notice as you're dreaming at night, regardless of what you dream, the realness of you is still there. Even though you're sleeping, you're still there. And you see that no matter what you dream, it doesn't touch what's really there. And this is very similar to the waking state, that as you go about your life, dreaming all sorts of things, the realness of what you are is untouched by your dream. Notice this. Like in this moment right now, as we're together, do you see how you can remember all of yesterday? And you can see all the dreams that you had, right? Oh, I thought this was happening, and I thought this was happening. Oh man, my mind was captured about this and that. You can, in a playful way, see how not present you were. Now, do you see how in this moment, none of that matters? It only matters for a projection about tomorrow. But in this moment, it's like it disappeared. It doesn't touch the realness of what you are right now. And you can see the similarity in your nighttime dreaming. It's the same. You dreamt all sorts of things, but you woke up and you realized, oh man, none of that was real. Wow, I can relax. That was fun. And in this moment, it's the same as dropping into that meditation state. You see what's real, that's the waking up. And you realize, oh wow, it was just a dream. I can relax. And you see, this is the spiritual waking up that has been pointed to for thousands of years, attempting to alert human beings that you're dreaming. You're dreaming all sorts of fearful things and you think it's real. Wake up, sleepy. Which is like saying, come back to this present moment. See what's real, see what's true, see what's actually happening. And what do you notice in recognizing what's real and what's true? All is well. You wake up into a wellness that has always been here. In the same way that when you wake up in the morning, regardless of the dream that you had, you realized it was fine the whole time. Throughout your entire sleep, all was well. These moments together with you and I is simply an opportunity to check in with what's real. To wake up. Notice what I'm saying here. This is not an opportunity to no longer dream. It's an opportunity to understand what's happening. Notice this. When you wake up in the morning and you realize it was just a dream, do you say to yourself, I'm never going to dream again? No. What do you say? In some way or another, that was interesting, that was fun. And when you go to sleep at night, do you try and tell yourself to not have dreams? In fact, I bet you're quite open to have dreams. They are their own form of exploration, of adventure. You don't judge the play of dreaming. Do you see, to judge the play of dreaming is almost saying the dream is real? Do you see that the more you recognize that the dream doesn't touch what's real, you allow yourself to dream? There's no judgment for the dream. And do you see that in a way, when you don't judge the dream, your dreaming can become more playful? It's like as a child, when you know that you're allowed to play, there's no judgment for your play. You have more fun. You see, the spiritual inquiry is not a movement to get rid of the dream. Please see this. It's to put it in its appropriate place. It's to understand. And in this great understanding, there is an allowing of a playfulness. This is almost like we begin to understand a deeper opportunity of being human. Something that recognizes, oh, this is a dream. This is an illusion. It's not real. And what happens when you recognize that it's not real? It becomes more playful. Now imagine, maybe you can taste this a little bit. Maybe you have to imagine it, but maybe you can also see it. A moment of recognition where you deeply realize that it's all a dream. Do you see how everything becomes hilarious?
You take it a lot less serious.
Yes, it's a lot less serious. To the point eventually where there's no serious. Serious implies a point system in the future. Serious implies that something can be lost. Almost like you were to go to sleep at night knowing that it was going to be a dream. Do you see how knowing it was going to be a dream, you have a tremendous amount of openness to dream? Like you're going on an adventure. All right, let's see what happens. Wow, it'd be cool to do this or do that maybe. I don't know, but let's find out. What an adventure. You see, the dilemma for the human being can be as simple as a dilemma of believing in what is not. And you can see how this ties into maybe a play of worry. To look at your human experience and to examine all the things you've worried about. And to see that in this moment, you're well, you're taken care of. The realness of you is untouched. In many ways, you can see there was nothing to worry about. That all of the worry in some way or another was a dream. And do you see how this play of worry, in a very practical way, is what gives rise to the stressful experience of being human? Where you can't be present, you can't be joyful, you can't be grateful, you can't be loving, you can't be kind. You can't be all of these qualities that you crave. And in this, you can see the remedy, the healing, is to see what's true. In seeing what's true in some way or another, that there's nothing to worry about, these qualities become your natural state of being. And when I mean your naturalness, when I say your naturalness, what I mean is that it's not something that you try to do. It's automatic. You don't try to be loving. You don't try to be kind. You don't try to be joyful. You don't try to be happy. There's no trying at all. It's automatic. The ability to discern between what is dream and what is real is your greatest skill set. It is your greatest tool in this human experience. And this instrument stems from a profound openness in your being. This openness is a willingness to see. This is where it all comes from. Is there a willingness, an openness? Do you see that in order to have a willingness, you have to let go of the dream? It's like you have to let go of everything in order to see what's real. Notice this. If you want something in the dream, like say you really want it, do you see how that wanting makes it real or tries to make it real? That wanting of it doesn't want to see that it's a dream. Because if it's a dream and you see that, then you can't have it. This is often what makes it very difficult to discern in such a way that we don't want to discern. We want what we want. Thus is the invitation in spirituality. As one engages a particular practice, a devotional unfolding towards what is true, you find that you want less and less and less, which equals a greater openness. You can see the one that introduces themselves to spirituality, they're full of wants and disappointments, the traditional human experience. I wanted this and I didn't get it, and I wanted that and it didn't work out. I wanted and wanted and wanted. And it's not working. Welcome to spirituality. Let's look at what's really going on here. And you start to see that everything you're wanting is something that's not even real. And to see this deeply, you recognize that if it's not real, then there's nothing to chase. There's nothing to go get. Which means what? You can be present. See how that works? You'll notice this if you examine everything that you think you want. There'll be a slight agitation or an anxiety to it that wants to get away from this moment to go get it. An anxiety that says you can't be at peace right now. Something's missing. You can't just enjoy yourself right now. Something's missing. And notice how all of that is mental commentary. It's noise in the mind. It's a dream. Imagined into existence. Only made real by a belief in a thought. Now this speaks to the play of the human being's dilemma, which in some way or another is a wound of inadequacy. Inadequacy meaning not enough. Now, very playful, let's explore this inadequacy. This wound, we might call it. And I always love pointing at this because I find it extremely profound. If I examine any problem that I have, it points back to a belief that I have that what I am is not enough. That I fear not being enough, or I thought I wasn't enough. Notice this, any anxiety, any disturbance in your being, if you investigate it, you can see that it's rooted in an idea that you're not enough. Almost as if you're trying to do something, but you just can't do it. And you're afraid that you won't be able to do it. It's like there's this constant anxiety within that's afraid to be alive because you know you don't really know what you're doing. You know you really don't know how to get what you want. You want someone to love you, but you don't know if you can be what they want. You want a future prize, but you really don't know if you can do what's necessary. Do you see how all of these assumptions of inadequacy really make it difficult enjoying the present moment? And just see this, that in all of these disturbances, there can be 10,000 stories, but it all comes back to the same story. I think I'm not enough. And not only this, but also understand this disturbance of inadequacy isn't just yours. It's everyone's. This is every human being's disturbance. So the next time somebody gets disturbed in your direction, you can see that at the core of it, what they're thinking is that they're not enough. They're afraid that they're not lovable. Isn't that sweet? It's super sweet because if you can see the truth of the matter, you see that that's not true. It's like a child spills something on his pants and he's confused about what's real and he thinks that he's unlovable now. Like he made a mistake that jeopardized his worth and value. And so he goes to mom and dad with his head down. Oh, I'm afraid I did something wrong, that I'm unlovable, that I'm not enough. And you can see the parents say, oh my God, come here, you're so cute. This is not a problem at all. And this is what we do as human beings. Is we imagine a self-inadequacy that's not really there. And in this imagined self-inadequacy, we go chasing its opposite in a way that says we want to be enough. This is what keeps us racing toward the future. Do you see what happens here? My goodness, we could just sit here for 5 days. Do you see what happens here? The mind thinks you're not enough, and so it imagines what is enough. And it says, if I could just have this, then I could be enough. And it goes and chases that. And I have to ask you, how's that going? And just playfully look at this throughout your whole life, the ideas of, oh, if only this, if only this, if only this. And no matter if you perceivably got there, do you remember how afraid you were to lose it? In such a way that you couldn't even enjoy it? And do you see that all of that noise is a dream in the mind? You can see that it doesn't work. The mind says, man, if only I had this brand new car, then I'd be enough. Then I could relax. And then you get the car. Man, if only I had this promotion, then I could pay for this car and not have to worry about it. Then I could relax. And on and on and on and on it goes. Maybe an updated example of this is, man, if only I had 1,000 friends on Facebook. Man, if only I had 2,000. Wait, I mean 3. Da-da-da-da-da-da. This is also the game in the world with money, in possession. Where no matter how much you accumulate, it only adds fuel to the fire of inadequacy. Do you see this? That as you try to accumulate, it reinforces the inadequacy.
It's not enough.
It's not enough. This is what, in a way, makes us spiral out of control. Where we put so much energy into a direction of trying to be enough that we eventually see it's all for nothing. And we say, what the hell? Do you see how this is very much lost in a dream? Do you see how if you believe you are not enough, by default you have to try to be enough? And I just invite you to see the impossibility of that. Let's go back to the beginning. Remember, the original assumption is a belief in something called not enough. And you not being enough. Is that even a real thing? Or is that a dream of not enough? Do you see how you cannot fix a dream? You can't fix a dream, man. You can only have a dream of fixing a dream, which isn't a real thing either. That's hilarious. You see, the waking up from this dream is to see that there isn't this or that. Waking up from the dream is to see that there isn't good or bad. That there isn't right or wrong. And that is not a popular thing to say in a world that really believes that good and bad are two different things. This is super sweet. Look at what happens here. Do you notice that the moment you believe in good and bad, you're afraid that you're bad? And what do you tend to do when you're afraid of being bad? Bad things? Now imagine for a moment that there was no judgment in such a way that you can't get it wrong. Do you see how you're more inclined to be nice? Notice this, it's like when there's no fear of judgment, then there's no violence inside of you. Notice all of the moments when you've been violent in some way or another, you were first being violent to yourself, judging yourself as bad. And then you were trying to fix that bad by controlling the outside, which is being violent. Trying to fix violence with violence. That's chaos. And we see this manifested in the world, in human beings, where we try and fix the world by controlling other people. How's that going? See, I think the world is bad, and so I know what's going to fix it. I know that something's going wrong, which means I know how it should go. And in order to make it go how you think it should go, you have to be violent in some way. You have to withhold freedom from something that says, you stop being you, and then I can relax. Do you see how violent that is? You stop being you so that I can relax. How often do we do that? It's amazing.
Very aggressive.
Yeah. That's judgment. And it's all a dream.
Can I ask you something,
Yeah.
Tiger?
Yeah.
So if we're in our present moment and in our present being, and we're observing everything that's in front of us, what is it saying to us if we're in relationships, or if we're in between partners, or between parental experiences? If these people are saying to you that you are not enough.
Right. Okay. So the question is, in relation to how we relate, what is going on when other people tell us we are not enough? Correct?
Correct.
Okay. And how to approach that and whatnot. Well, first let's kind of create a foundation here. Because the fundamental misunderstanding that makes dealing with that difficult is the belief that you are experiencing something or someone outside of you, right? The assumption that I'm dealing with another person. You see how that's almost a little stressful, right? Because you see that it's out of your control, but you want to control it. That basic assumption is false in such a way that there's, as it relates to what's true, there's not really an answer for that question. We can say it's sort of a dream question, but we can offer a pointer that points back to what is more true, what is actually happening. And let's look at this. Remember that no matter what anyone appears to tell you, you are the one that gives meaning to it. Now see this. It's like no matter what sound arises, no matter what circumstance unfolds, no matter what somebody says, what you experience is your interpretation. Right? Now notice this. You don't actually experience something happening out there. You experience how you see it. Do you see that how you see it is the projection? Right? That's the dream. Notice this. Really, really see this. What you experience is not what it is. You experience what you project it to be, what you project it to mean. The dream is the belief that what you are projecting is actually happening, which is the dream says, somebody else said this to me. Do you see how it would be more accurate that if you are experiencing your interpretation, then you are saying it to you? Do you see this? Like, no matter what anybody says, it's just noise. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then you experience how you construct that noise into a meaning about you. So your experience in whatever happens shows you how you see you. Like, for example, if you saw yourself as not enough and that was painful, if somebody says in some way or another that you're not enough, then it will hurt. And then likewise, do you see how if there was no belief in not enough and somebody said you're not enough, you'd be like, that's cute. It's not a big deal. There's no energy to it. You would have a completely different interpretation, almost to the point where you wouldn't even hear you're not enough. Now notice this, because this is a great pointer of our everyday experiences where we think people are telling us we're not enough, but that's not what they're saying at all. Like somebody says through a text message, I can't hang out with you this weekend. Do you see the mind can say, they're telling me I'm not enough? Actually, no, that's not what's happening at all. And so in the same way that even if somebody appears to say you're not enough, maybe that's still not what's happening. The way that I approach this, and this might be maybe too far down the rabbit hole, but just see how it relates for your experience. Everything that I experience is a catalyst for awakening. Meaning that there is nothing that can happen that doesn't serve the purpose of waking up. And so in that, everything is a teacher. And you see that if everything is a teacher, then in some way or another, everything is pointing inward. Like it's trying to show me something. Do you see how this is sort of an energy of openness to receive? Which is also like a permission for anything to happen. For anyone to say whatever they say, for anyone to think whatever they think. There's no resistance towards what might be said. There's nothing that doesn't want people to say certain things. Do you see that? There's nothing that wants to get away from what somebody might say. Just in that openness alone, it gives birth to a dramatically different experience should that particular experience ever arise. Almost where I'm not trying to fix the interaction, but I become more open to the interaction. there's a way that this healing unfolds that is a playful, great challenge to put into words. But let me say it this way. These healings that continually wake us up are birthed through recognitions of truth. Oh, this is so beautiful. Like, for example, as we're sitting here now, do you notice how there's an openness within you to see what's true? And in that openness to see what's true, you receive insight. And do you notice that those moments when you receive insight, it's like little light bulbs go off? Like, oh, oh, oh. And those are very often loving in nature. Notice they have a loving energy quality to them, almost like a letting go of fear. There's something that happens energetically in this that is beyond the mind's comprehension or beyond the dream character's comprehension. The dream character assumes there's something for you to do in order to bring healing, right? I have to fix this. I have to change this. But that's all dream stuff. In the present moment openness to receive insight, to have these moments of clarification, they are little energetic movements of liberation, almost where switches are being turned on inside of your being. The structure of your humanness is being altered by these recognitions. Simply your willingness to see them. And it is only this willingness to see that makes all the difference. In such a way that as you sit here and listen and receive and feel deeply the truth of these things, it has already affected every future experience you have. Do you see this, how in a way there's nothing for you to do in that? It's just you enjoy the journey of your unfolding, which is your own openness to see what's true. And it automatically affects the future circumstance, the way that you perceive it. Now, what I can also promise you is that this healing, this liberation, never takes the form that the mind wants it to take. Like the mind says, okay, if I really understood this, then I could respond this way and respond that way and da 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 da. That just projects a different dream character of yourself in the world that's still trying to like fix itself, as if this is up to you somehow. But there really is, and I guess maybe I can say even from my experience, what's funny is that as I talk about these things, the one who is listening might assume that I have done something special in order to see these things, or that I have somehow learned the right things, like I've been super spiritual or something. And it couldn't be further from the truth of the unfolding. And maybe one way we can see this is if you're here receiving, listening, there is very obviously something within you that is lovingly open to life. Can you recognize that you didn't have anything to do with that? It was almost by grace that such an unfolding took place. Like out of the 10 billion experiences you've had, they've all led to this opening. And you can very clearly see you didn't have anything to do with it. It was given to you. Do you see how, in a way, this is a permission to relax about the whole thing? That this whole journey of waking up to what's true is happening to you, through you, for you. It's given to you. And it's not something that you can make happen. In fact, the idea that you are the one that's doing it is a projection of a dream character. Like, notice in your dreams how your dreams at night, you really think you're doing it, right? Like you're going here or you're running there. Do you see how you're not doing anything? You're just watching the show. And in the end of the dream, at the end of the show, you see that everything's fine. Regardless of how it goes, everything is fine. Which is ultimately what we crave through all of our journeys. We crave a wellness, that this is okay. And it is. In my pointing about the experience of inadequacy and dealing with other people, you know, there's such a profound shift in our relationship with how we receive other people. Do you see how when you feel inadequate, it's an opportunity for healing, an opportunity of recognizing the truth? In the same way that when a child comes to you with spilt soup on his pants, it's an opportunity for love to be extended, right? It's an opportunity for love to celebrate that there's no problem. Like, imagine how excited you would be that that even happened so that you could express love. It's like, this totally isn't true, but it's super cute, and I love that it's happening because then I can show you that I love you. It's beautiful. And so it's not wrong or bad that the child had the experience of inadequacy. It's an opportunity for love to expand. And thus is the experience in our interactions with other people, that as we might feel rejected, as we might feel inadequate, all of those are little moments for the truth to be celebrated, for the truth to be realized, for liberation to occur, for love to be extended. Again, that opens you to the experience of being rejected. Now, the dilemma in this, see how we are so conditioned to avoid all of those experiences, to avoid feeling rejected, to avoid the possibility that somebody else might think we're not enough. It's really quite pervasive. And do you see how our avoidance to it is being closed down to life? And do you see how if we are closed down to life, then we are not positioned, so to speak, to be liberated?
We learn nothing.
We learn nothing. And so this movement that closes down, that pushes away, is almost based on the assumption that it's up to you. That you're the one that has to do it or not do it, and you see that you can't, so you don't even want to play. But as you begin to see that it's not up to you, that this is an unfolding of a dream that leads into awakening, you become more open for the dream to be the dream. That if today I encounter a dream of rejection, fantastic. Let's see what it points to. What does it show me? And oftentimes in my experience with these dreams of rejection or inadequacy, it shows me how I am holding on to the dream. It shows me how I'm limiting my own experience. For example, if I feel that somebody else rejects me, do you see how I'm wanting something from them? If I feel like somebody's rejecting me, then I am trying to get something. Which, do you see how that trying to get something from them is a withholding of love from them? It's not letting them be them. Like, for example, somebody sends me a text, says, hey, I don't want to hang out with you. To feel rejected by that says that I don't want them to be themselves. It says, I want to control you. I want to hide behind you. And that's all incredibly painful, partly because it's impossible. I'm literally trying to do something that's impossible. Trying to get you to not be you. And this is the root of inadequacy. When you try and do something that's not for you to do, you will feel inadequacy. So you can kind of take this to the bank, so to speak. If you feel inadequate, you are literally trying to do something that's impossible. It's not for you to do. If you feel an inadequacy of rejection, you're trying to get acceptance from something that cannot actually give you acceptance. And so the pain of inadequacy is an invitation to be still and question what's really going on here. What's true here? Is it really about them? Oh, I'm trying to get something from you. That'll never work. And you see, to really inquire, you find a permission to let it go. It's like, oh, okay, I got caught up into the dream that you have something that I don't have. You have something that I need, which is absurd, which makes me your prisoner. It's absurd. Adorably absurd.
Painfully absurd.
Painfully absurd. But you see, this is the beauty of pain. All disturbance in that way is attempting to say there's something out of alignment with the truth. To be disturbed is an alarm that says you are buying into a dream. It's like when you have those waking dreams at night where you know you're dreaming, it's more fun, isn't it? You know you're dreaming, and so it's almost like there's an openness for anything to happen. And you start to have fun with it. You start to play in it. And this is the same opportunity that we have in our humanness, is to play in that dream. And my goodness, there's so many ways to access that. There's so many ways to participate, almost as if this landscape of being human is an adventure park for the soul. It's like you're literally here on vacation as an entity of light going on a ride. And we all know these experiences of joy where we allow life to flow through us. It's almost like the creative nature of our being is allowed to dance and play. Almost as if we know it's just a dream. And in the perfection of the overall design of life itself, there is also a perfection in forgetting that you're dreaming, in being taken in by the dream. You see, we often have judgment for that, and we often want to get away from that. It's like, I don't ever want to fall asleep. Do you see the only reason you don't want yourself to fall asleep is because you judge yourself falling asleep? Without the judgment, there's no more problem because nothing happens. You see, there's nothing wrong with the play of dreaming. There's nothing wrong with the play of forgetting. It's all part of it. The only real hindrance to the whole thing is the judgment of the process. And that judgment of the process, again, ties in with the sense of inadequacy because you think you should be able to do it. In the same way that you wake up in the morning and you see the beauty of the sunshine and you say, wow, this is amazing. I'm never going to sleep again. As if it's up to you. And you try and stay awake as long as you can. And you see the more you try, the more irritable you become because actually you're tired. Actually, you'd like to fall asleep, but you can't because you're judging yourself for falling asleep. And so the real invitation in that is to release the judgment and acknowledge the naturalness of what's happening. Where I'm tired, I'd like to rest. Or I'm falling asleep now. This is what's happening. How do you know you're not supposed to fall asleep? All of your play of spiritually being asleep has given rise to the play of spiritually waking up. What a beautiful design. That's the end of our session. Online, anyway. Wonderful to see you guys on here. Thanks for playing. Aloha. Cheers. Till next week.